Okay, so we've been speaking about how we basically are the bridges between heaven and earth. And when we do a mitzvah with our full intention, we are drawing down all the lights of that mitzvah to the mitzvah itself and therefore to the earth. So we gave the example of shaking the lulav, which is a very relevant one, since that's what we'll be doing for the next week or so, starting Tuesday morning when we take those four species that come from the earth and we shake them in all directions, as we'll do, and say the blessing over them, obviously, then we are drawing down those lights from the heavens to those pieces of the earth from which they came from and to the earth altogether, since we're shaking the lulav in all directions. Now, for that, you need intention. And without intention, then yes, maybe those lights are drawn down, but they are not also reconnecting to the heavens. It's a two-way street. So without intention, let's look at it as just a one-way street. Um, we spoke about prayers, for example. The prayers without intention get stuck. Remember that? We said they get stuck in the ceiling. They don't ascend all the way to the upper worlds. Some ascend to the world of angels, but the angels sift through them and they say, okay, this prayer is not worthy to continue on its journey upward, so we'll leave it here. But when we do have full intention with our every mitzvah, and we activate those wings, which we called love and awe, if you recall, then we create this two-way street, this full bridge between heaven and earth and between earth and heaven. And that's really the goal of the Beinoni too, who is the focus of this chapter. Anyway, that's to condense what we studied in just a few lines, but let's continue on where we left off. As you mentioned, Margot, bottom of page 79. Does anyone want to read?
I don't mind reading.
Please, Susan.
Is it when a Jew? Is that where we are?
Yeah, maybe read the letters in bold too, but
Uh,
even without this.
okay.
And
But
and, and
we,
let me just say, even without this, the this is referring to those prayers, those deeds that are done without the full intention, without the activation of the love and the awe. Even without this, go for it.
but even without this, they still rise to the world of Yetzirah by means of the natural fear and love which are latent in the heart of all Jews from birth, as will be later explained at length.
Right. So just to ex explain, so as we mentioned, our four worlds. According to Kabbalah, we are in the lowest of all four worlds. We are in the world of action. Above us is the world of formation, the world of Yetzirah, where the angels are from. Above that is the world of creation, where our souls come from. And above that is the world of emanation, Atzilut, which is a world where only the very few selected souls, the souls of the righteous, like Moses, for example, come from. It's a world where God is least reserved, or his light is least reserved, and it's more abundant. And that's the highest of worlds. And then, there's throne of glory even higher than that, Keter, what's called also. But for prayers to really ascend to all the way to the throne of glory, they need to be prayers that are pure and that are full of intention from the love and from the awe, from those wings. Now, if they are not, then they still go, this is what this is saying, to Olama Yetzirah, to the world of formation, which is the world above this world, which is the world, our world is the world of action. The world above this is the world of formation, which is the world of angels. So those prayers still ascend to that world. Why? Because deep inside, and this is a very powerful idea, deep inside, we all love God. And that's the reason, by the way, that God can command us to love him. Because if you think about this, it's impossible to command someone to love something, right? If I don't love apples, you can't force me to love apples. It just doesn't work. I don't love apples. Or if I don't love this quality, this characteristic, I just don't love it. So how can we force someone to love God? That's one of the 613 commandments. We say it in the Shema every day. Love God, your heart with all your heart and with all your soul. How can you command someone to love? And the answer is because deep within, innately, we have that love. We possess that love. All we have to do is discover it. And this is what this is referring to. When we pray to God, even though we might not have that full intention, that full kavanah, that love is still there. Deep inside, we do want to pray. We do want to connect, which is, by the way, what prayer means. Prayer tefillah doesn't mean prayer. It means, as we mentioned before, means to connect. We want to connect. We want to be one with God. So in that prayer without intention, there is still an ingredient that hasn't been developed, that it's almost like you put something in your cake that didn't take off. But there's still an ingredient of pure love, of pure yearning for connection, because that's how we are created innately. And that in and of itself is good enough to make the prayer soar, at least to the next world, to the world of formation. Which really, you know, there's an expression in Maimonides that you find and in certain laws of when he compiled all of the laws of the Torah. In some places, he says that a person must be forced. "Kofin oto ad sheyomar rotzeani." In some places, one person needs to be forced to do something, of course, in legal ways and in loving ways, but forced to do something until he says, "I want." Rotzeani. Now, it's an oxymoron if you think about it. If I am forced, I don't want. And if I want, I don't need to be forced. What does Maimonides say? And the answer is this, exactly what we're speaking about here. That deep inside, we want to be connected with God. We want to do mitzvahs. But sometimes our coarseness, our distractions, our animal soul gets the better of us. So it covers up that desire. So the only work that we really have to do is to reveal it because it's already there. And that's what Maimonides is referring to. You force the desire to be revealed. It's already there. It's like Michelangelo said when he carved King David, he didn't have to carve King David out of the rock, he had to reveal him because he already saw the angel in the marble, as he put it. And it's the way we have to treat ourselves. Sometimes we look like rocks, but we can't forget there's an angel in the marble, in the rock. And that angel is to be revealed, but this is what this is referring to. God sees that angel. And we may throw sometimes rocks towards him, which is our prayers, but because he sees that angel, he allows them to soar at least to the world of Yetzirah, to the world of formation. So with or without prayers, in the context of prayers or not, I think this idea is very powerful because we can never give up on ourselves. There's an angel in there. And we can never give up on others because there's an angel in there too. Even though sometimes the rock gets, is very thick. It's what they say that, jokingly or not, but they say that that was the difference between the Baal Shem Tov, the founder of the Hasidic movement, and Sigmund Freud, the father of psychology, because they both dug into the human psyche. And the problem is that Sigmund Freud didn't dig deep enough. See, when Sigmund Freud dug into the human psyche, he found an id, the ego and the id. And it's filled with sexual desires and all sorts of other things. The Baal Shem Tov dug even deeper. And in Yiddish, the word for Jew is Yid. He didn't find the id, he found the Yid. He found that angel. And it's just a question sometimes of how much we dig. So you can say, yes, I found a rock. I believe there's an angel, so I'm going to start digging. It could be your rock. And you dig and you dig and you say, oh gosh, look at me. I have all sorts of inclinations, all sorts of addictions, all sorts of habits. But you're not digging deep enough. It's like the soil. In order to get to the water, to those wells, you have to dig deep, deep, deep. So dig deeper. If you haven't found it, it's just because of your digging. It's not because it doesn't exist. That angel in the marble is always there. I just read in preparation for Yom Kippur, I'm always researching stories and so on. It's a story I didn't use in the end, but it's a story about this general Ben Dayan who was severely injured on Yom Kippur, on the Yom Kippur War, 1973. And it was a pivotal moment in his life. because from his injury onwards, he started to reconnect to what was always there, to his angel. And the story he tells is because when he was injured in the Golan Heights, he was bleeding and he thought he was going to die. So he said to himself, okay, I'm bleeding here profusely. I'm maybe have a few minutes left on earth. So let me at least die comfortably and start thinking about memories that can bring me some sort of calmness in this chaos while I'm dying. So he started to think about, he was a professor, so he started to think about all sorts of mathematicians. It didn't bring him comfort. He said, okay, let me start to think about some of the stations in my life. Didn't bring him comfort. And he went through his memory lane until he eventually went to his grandfather that he would walk to shul with every Shabbat. His grandfather would hold his hand and tell him stories and sing him some songs. And he said, oh, that's what brought me a lot of comfort. And at the very last second, a soldier came, a paramedic, and saved his life, and he started rehabilitating himself. Then he said, look, everything I did in my life didn't bring me comfort, except for what my grandfather infused in me, that soul that he ignited in me. So maybe I should reconnect to that, because at the end of the day, that seems to be my essence. And some people go through a big crisis like this that awakens them, but we don't need crises like that to happen in order to find that angel that is filled with love, with songs, stories of our grandparents, and all those values that they infused in us. That's the angel. So it's always there. And because it's there, even when it's not revealed in our prayer, it makes those prayers ascend to the world of formation. That's what this is saying. I don't want to be the only one speaking, as I always say, so please feel free to share your thoughts, your disagreements, your comments, and so on. Otherwise, we can continue.
I have a thought.
Yes, William, please.
When I pray or meditate, I always felt it's a relationship between me and God. The idea that there are intermediaries is very foreign to me, that I have to go through intermediaries before my message is heard. I find that idea very foreign.
It's a good point. It's a very, very good point, because also, if you think about this, angels are lower than human beings, than souls, right? They come from the world of formation. We come from a higher world, the world of creation. So why do we need them? We're higher than them anyway. They can't climb to the places we can climb to. So I wouldn't see them as intermediaries. They're not the intermediaries that maybe other religions have. I would see them more as escorts, as bodyguards, as the people who accompany us, and they don't have that power to be that intermediary. But what they do is that they protect us from ourselves, because to go deeper, some of these prayers that we say without intention are prayers that not only miss the mark, but in many ways sometimes can it's like shooting in the dark, right? When you shoot in the light, you know more or less what the target is, you have your full focus. When you shoot in the dark, you don't know where you're hitting. So those prayers can hit in places that we don't want them to hit. They can achieve things that we don't want them to achieve. So in many ways, they bodyguard us to say, okay, this prayer wasn't done with intention. If you really wanted to ascend, it might create more damage than good. So we'll take it away from you for your sake. So it's not to bring it further, but it's really to protect us. If you understand what I'm saying. Somehow, okay. Yeah. I mean, look, let's simplify it by saying, if my children, you can relate to that because I know you have amazing children, but if when they were young, if your children came and said, you know what, And even they said it without intention. Can you spoil us this way or that way? Can you give us candies? You know it's bad for them. So if you had an older, or if you have, your spouse would tell you, which maybe is like your angel, would tell you, sorry, this prayer is not good for them. Not doing it. Now, if they beg for candies and they promise and they say, if you give us candies, then we'll, we will meet the conditions and we'll do whatever it is. Then you think twice. Then the prayers ascend more towards the depth of your heart. But other than that, you need kind of a support system to say, well, this prayer is really not good for them. Or this prayer wasn't said with intention, so they need to work harder. Children, you need to work harder in order to receive this, right? So that's more or less the task of angels. It's not intermediaries, but they sift through prayers because they can see whether they're good for us and they can see whether we deserve them or not, based on that intention.
But then how do you know as the person praying that that prayer did not ascend, that you do need to work harder and put more intention to it?
So from the person praying standpoint,
Mm-hmm.
that's a good question. Look, I would venture to say that very often we know. It's almost like musicians. They when they're connected and the music flows through them, they just know it. Or artists, they know that there's a higher power you're working. So it's almost like you intuitively know, but sometimes you don't. And sometimes it's impossible to know until a prayer is fulfilled, and then you say, "Oh, I guess it worked." But I would venture to say that people, because prayer is connection, that's again what it means. Tefillah means connection, not prayer. So just like anyone who's connected to something greater than themselves, you feel it, you know it. You just, oh, I've reached that. In Italian, they call it punta di nesta. It's like when you run, boom, you've reached that point of connection. And yeah, I think it's something more into it, like more depending on the intuition, intuitive. Good question. Yeah. Okay, anyone else? Please feel free again to speak your minds, otherwise we can continue. All right, let's continue. Bottom of page 79 here. When a Jew performs a commandment.
When a Jew performs a commandment, even when it is not united by God with a good thought and is not performed with love and awe, it does not remain in the physical world. Because at the very least, his soul is prepared for the love and awe of God, this act is raised to a higher world. Natural love and awe of God do not radiate with consciousness in its emotional collateral, but only subliminally. Consequently, they elevate the commandment to Yetzirah, the world of the emotion of holiness. This chapter has described the Benoni's service to God. As mentioned, the Benoni is able to reach a love of God that is complete and revealed unless he undergoes a profound inner transformation.
Mm-hmm.
Short of that, he will attain at best moments of raised consciousness, transitory obliviousness from his other desires. His intention is to serve God to his best ability, but the continuity of such an elevated experience is beyond his grasp. So without a fully realized love, the Benoni must continue to labor. He must invest his spiritual efforts ceaselessly in those powers over which he has control, his intellect and his thought. And he must be on guard that his intellectual arousal does not remain in some abstract existence, but is anchored in the realm of physical reality and carries out its mission of change there. This is the good thought that God unites with deed, the merging of lofty perception with earthly action, the complete commandment that joins heaven and earth.
Right. And mazel tov to all of us for finally completing chapter 16. But as you were reading this conclusion of Rabbi Steinsaltz on chapter 16, in which, again, Rabbi Stein says that, the Benoni has to work on himself. Doesn't come so naturally, even though that love and the awe is within his nature. He has to work on activating it laboriously and each and every day. It doesn't, it's not that because you achieved it today that you'll necessarily achieve it tomorrow. You have to put in the same work, the same focus, the same devotion tomorrow as well as the day after. But as you were reading this, I was thinking really of Socrates' line that's, in which he famously said that an unexamined life is not worth living. What the Benoni does through the activation of the wings and through really refining himself and finding that angel in the marble, as we spoke about, is that he's living an examined life. He examines his life and he sifts through every thought, through every speech, and through every action, because these are, as the Tanya says, the three realms we live in: thought, speech, and action. And he doesn't use them loosely. He really examines every thought. Is this a thought now worth occupying my mind or not? And if not, why is it still in my mind? Let me expel it. No matter how, dominating it may be in its menace. So what? I have power of over my mind, so I'm going to expel this thought. He examines every thought like that. Same with every word. Is this something worth saying? What I'm about to say, is this going to create good? Or is it going to create harm? Or is it, well, I don't know. And even when I don't know, I shouldn't say it. Because if there's a doubt that it might create harm, so rather not say it. And same with action. Is this a deed that's worth doing or not? And if it's a good deed, if it's a mitzvah, I'll do it anyway. Because I know that God has instructed me to do it, and I'm going to do it whether I feel like doing it or not. But if it's not, then is it worth doing it? So he examines every aspect of his life in those three realms. And it's something that really has to do throughout his entire life. It's not like, okay, maybe at the age of 85, I'll get it. No, even at that age, you won't get it. Just as a side note, it reminds me of Rabbi Steinsaltz. I just said this to someone who I think should get married. Because Rabbi Steinsaltz was once asked, when do you think people are ready to get married? And he responded wisely. He said, for men, I think it's at the age of 94. For women, it's probably at the age of 91. So you have to jump in it sometimes. But same with the Benoni. Until the age of 94, you still, even beyond, you still have to work on it each and every day. So you may say, wow, well, this is crazy. Why would I want to be a Benoni? That's because an unexamined life is not worth living. An examined life is very, very much worth living. It's worth living for you, and it's worth living for the impact that you have on your surroundings and on the world altogether. And that's what this chapter really was all about.